Do you want to show up on videos and present yourself as an expert or an authority in your field, but you feel a little bit like you're a fraud because you're not the world leading expert in your field? Don't worry. In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can show up as an authority if you're not the top expert in your field, and actually why that's not necessary at all. I'm Andrea Stenberg. I'm a video marketing strategist, and I work with online experts just like you to show up on camera, build your visibility, your authority, and connect with future clients. You don't have to be the top expert in your field. You don't have to have a best selling book. You don't have to have appeared on Oprah to be an expert and to present yourself as an authority in your field. Let me give you a couple of examples of how and why that works. My mother was a school teacher. If you're not in the education field, you may not know that there are fads in education. Things come in and out of fashion. When my mother was a student herself, grammar was out of fashion. So she didn't get taught all the parts of speech. But then when she was teaching grade 7 English, and the current fad for her was where you went deep into the grammar. You had to know all the parts, and students had to learn how to deconstruct sentences where they're given a sentence and they have to cut it up and go, this is the object, this is the predicate. And my mom didn't know any of it. So what she did is every night she was frantically learning the grammar herself, and then the next day she would teach it to her students. And she told me that that was actually some of the best teaching she ever did in her entire career because the subject matter was new to her. She had just learned it, and she knew ahead of time where students were going to get confused, where they were going to struggle. So, as somebody teaching beginners, she was an excellent teacher because she was a beginner herself. And that's the same for you. If you're a coach, a course creator, a consultant, if you're too far ahead of where your clients are, it can actually be intimidating. Imagine you're working with brand new clients who are trying to make the first $1,000 online. Let's say that's your area of expertise. Who is going to be more relatable to them? Somebody who comes online and says, hey, I made $10 million last year and I'm going to show you how to do it too. I think this is a person who's never made $1,000. $10 million seems like an impossible thing. There has to be some magic and some special skills for somebody who's trying to make $1,000 online. But if you come forward and say, I made $25,000 last year online, and I can help you make your first 1,000, they're going to look at you and say, oh, that's somebody that's a little bit more on my scale. I might be able to do that too. You don't have to be the top. You don't have to be the number one expert in your field to help people. You just have to be a little further along. And in fact, if you're not too far ahead of your ideal clients, it really is a benefit because they're relatable to you and they'll feel like, oh, if she can do it, I can do it too. And that's really what you want. So don't worry if you're not the top expert. You're just guiding people to get to where you are. And that's a perfect way to start with video marketing and start showing your authority. Next thing for showing up and being seen as an expert online is make sure you really know what you're talking about. It's a lot easier to feel confident when you're talking about a subject matter you're familiar with. Have you ever belonged to a networking group and you show up and then the chair of the meeting comes to you and says, you know what, our guest speaker didn't show. Do you think you could talk for 10 minutes today? And if you've ever stepped up and said yes, you probably chose a topic that you know really well. When you're choosing your early videos, do that. Choose topics that you could talk about for 10 minutes or 15 minutes with zero preparation. Then prepare. If you prepare ahead of time so that you know what you're going to say, and not just the topic, but your main points, do you have examples or stories that go along with those main points? And then also, really importantly, know what you're going to say at the end of your videos. You'll feel a lot more confident and you will sound more confident. And that's where having a video marketing strategy is really helpful because then you know what you're supposed to say, you know what all the pieces of your video are going to look like. And no, you don't need to have a script, but it is helpful to have examples and stories. Like the story that I told about my mother teaching. I didn't just pull it out of thin air while I was recording live. I thought about it ahead of time and made sure to remember I wanted to tell that story. So plan ahead and prepare and know what each of the pieces of your video are going to be. And you will sound more confident because you'll feel more confident. Another way to show up and be an expert is the visual stuff. And I know sometimes that feels a little bit fluffy because the content and what you know is the important stuff, but still, you're on video, so visuals matter. Now, imagine if you turn on the video and I was hunched over like this and I was mumbling and whispering and never making any eye contact. Would you consider me authority? Or if I'm up straight, my shoulders are back, I've got a smile on my face, and I'm speaking in a confident tone of voice? It does matter. That's why, if you can, recording videos standing up are great because it does force you to be upright. But if you can't, or it's not convenient, or your office isn't set up and you're sitting in a chair like I am now, plant your feet firmly on the ground and sit up and try to smile. Another part of your visual presence on camera is eye contact. The big mistake I see people doing is they're reading their script and they're looking all around and they're never looking at the camera. Another thing that can happen if you're filming on Zoom or some other platform where your face is actually on your screen, the tendency as human beings for most of us is to look another person in the face. But if you're speaking on camera, need to be looking at your audience, which is from the camera. One of my favorite tips for when you're getting started with video is take a post-it with an arrow and point it at the camera to remind yourself where to look. And if you're on Zoom or you're on some sort of live streaming on your desktop, put the post-it right in the middle of where your face is, because then if you go to look at your face, it will remind you to go up and look at the camera. Likewise, if you're recording on your phone, put the post-it on the screen with an arrow to where the lens is, not where your face is, and that will make you look at the camera so your audience feels like you're connecting with them. The other thing is on camera, smile. Smile more than you think is natural because you're not actually in person, but adding a smile makes you seem more approachable, more personable, and it also does change how you speak and how you present when you're smiling. So it up levels your energy. So smile more than you think is natural. Another part of video marketing, and this is really challenging for beginners, and this is the step you could avoid as you're just getting started, but as you up level, is to start engaging with your audience. And there's two parts to that. One is making sure you have stories, relatable stories, personal stories, so that people get to know the person behind the business. And the other part is encouraging engagement. So asking questions, getting people to interact with you. And this is not something, particularly when you're a beginner, that you should just pull out of thin air as you're speaking. If you have an outline of what you want to say, make sure in big, bold letters, ask a question, ask for people's opinions, but don't make it complicated. For example, if I said to you, "Oh, please tell me in the comments about the first time you went on camera and what happened," nobody wants to write a paragraph in the comments of somebody's video. But if you said, "Hey, have you ever gone live before? Give me a thumbs up in the comments," that's a quick, people can either do it or not. Or it could be something like ask a very simple either or question. What's your biggest concern with making videos? Is it the tech or is it the content? Type one if it's tech, type two if it's content. that's nice, simple. People don't have to type a lot of words. It's an either or, one or the other. Keep it simple and build it into your structure of your video. But you have permission from me. If you're just starting out, you're just getting comfortable, skip this part about interacting with your audience until down the road when you're more confident with on camera and you're more confident with your content. But keep in mind that this needs to get added in. The final thing I want to talk about today is acknowledge the fact that if you're just getting started with video, you're a beginner. Let yourself be a beginner, but have fun with the process. You don't have to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. Even just in this video, you've probably heard me a few times stumble over words. You've seen me look down on my desk. I have an outline of what I want to talk about. I'm not perfect either. I don't have it memorized. Sometimes I stumble over words. Sometimes I forget to look at the camera. It's a journey, and have fun. And remember, you're connecting with people who need what you have to offer, and you need to show up and let them see that you're the amazing person you are and that you're the person to help them. So, just a quick recap: you don't need to be the top expert in your field in order to start showing up as an authority on camera. You just need to be a little bit ahead of the people you're trying to help. Preparation and knowing your content is great. You don't have to memorize things, but if you know ahead of time what you want to talk about and what examples and stories you want to share, you will feel more confident and that will show up as more confident and more authoritative in your videos. Presence matters. So make sure you're standing up straight, you're looking at the camera, you're remembering to smile, and don't be afraid to use your hands once in a while. Let people see that you're a real person. You're not a robot. You're not AI. You're a human being. Let them see that. Remember to engage with your audience, tell personal stories, and ask for calls to engagement. Ask questions that people can answer really quickly, really simply, to encourage them to stay attentive to your videos and also start interacting with you. And finally, enjoy the journey. This is a journey, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and you should have fun while you're doing it. So, thank you for watching me. If you found these valuable, make sure you share this video with somebody else you know who is getting started in their video marketing journey. And come back for my next video where I'm going to be sharing the 5 biggest myths entrepreneurs have around video marketing. I've been Andrea Stenberg. Thank you so much for joining me today.